Welcome everyone, and welcome to Trainercon, and yeah, I'm going to be here talking about my 3D animations. Hopefully you're having a fun day. We're not doing this live unfortunately, but I will try to jump in on the day, maybe just after the stream, to answer any questions. So if you do have any questions, leave them down below in the comments. And so yeah, let's get started. What I'm going to do is I'm going to explain my process on how I go about making my animations and how it's evolved over time. So I've selected 3 of my favorites from the past. So they're 3 of my, for different reasons, 3 of my favorite posts I've made, and I'm going to go through and just talk around each one and maybe just show you the process, maybe even show behind the scenes of the actual makeup of some of these. A standard animation, like the ones you're seeing right now, I generally take about 4 or 5 hours, I'd say, on average, on creating them. That doesn't include render time, because usually what I do is I render them overnight. Basically, it's changed over time, because it used to be something that a better question I think would be why I do it. You'll notice that I don't just do Pokemon, although Pokemon is becoming, 80-90% of what I do now. Originally, I had my characters. I actually have them on my mug here. I have my coffee, tea here. Here's Lynx and Razor, and basically that's the reasoning why I do what I do on social media, because especially if you go back in time, you'll see that I've been doing mostly animations involving them, which is like my own characters that I built. It's sort of evolved on social media that I do what I do just for fun, and eventually, it's a lot easier working with lots of different characters I can get hold of for a fun concept of a 3D thing that I can have fun with, because I enjoy what I do, and what I do here is outside of work as well. So it's not like this is my day job or anything like that. This is just what I do for fun. So naturally, if it's in my spare time, I want to have fun with it. And so over time, it's sort of evolved mostly into Pokemon, because I do like Pokemon. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a lot of the characters I can get hold of, usually Gen 1, 2, maybe 3. Once they get further down the line, they're less likely to be available online because they're too new. But they are actually the official models, usually from X and Y, which are freely available online. However, before you go off and start trying to download them, doing them yourself, they're not really set up straight away to be used in the way that I do straight away. You'll have the physical model, but then there's going to be like their bone structure is going to be in place so they can move. Like they have what is known in 3D as bones. So you have your bones of your limbs like you have in real life. You can control them independently to animate something, but they're not set up in a way that is useful. So you still need to put in your own controls on top of it, so then you can move it around and have a nice time with it rather than just it being a mess. Then there's the texturing and lighting issue. So if you just take the flat model from the game, obviously they're quite flat. It's the same models that they pretty much use in all of Pokemon Go, for instance. So the engine that you see through the app or the game, will render it in a certain way, but it's still the bare bones of that flat basic model. And so it won't look realistic, is what I'm saying. It's because it comes down to your own understanding of how to render something. So then I go through a whole texturing process, and it depends on your exporting or rendering program of choice to actually get it out of the system looking the way you want. As I'll be explaining, I use Cinema 4D as my 3D program, and it has its own render engine inside, which is what I used to do with Razor and Lynx. So all of Razor and Lynx is using the standard renderer, and my more recent, say the past year or so, has all been in a GPU renderer. In this case, it's something called Octane. But there are plenty of others out there like Redshift, and I don't know, I'm not going to go into that because it's too technical. But say if we took a Pokemon, something simple like Pikachu, I've got the model, he's rigged and ready to go. he's textured, ready to be put into the scene so he looks realistic, and that's when you can move on to the animation. But before we do the animation, we have to set up the scene, because like anyone using a 3D filter app like Snapchat or Instagram filters, and something's following your face or is on a desktop or something which is moving around, that there's an AI process there where, you know, the app or the program is following the scene so that you can put your object in place, and no matter what the scene does, the object goes with it. So that's the tracking process that I have to go through with all my animations. A lot of times when things are on tripods, so a still camera, you cut out a lot of that problem. It does make it a lot easier, but I don't like doing it because, you know, it just looks static when something's just still. So I can get away with it by faking the camera movement at the end of the process, so I can add in some like camera shake, but still it's kind of you know, it's not as nice as just having a nice, you know, actual handheld camera that is obviously handheld, which is much more organic. If we take one of my old ones as an example, so if I open this up, so let's look at it first. So that's the basic gist of the sound. But as you can see, we've got Jolteon just there in my living room. That's my hand. And this is all filmed on this phone. So it's just filmed on my phone. And that's my other phone, which is actually down here. So it's my old phone. So just to prove it was me. So they are both here. And if we go through, if I just turn the sound off so it doesn't get in the way. So what we got here, we go through it step by step. So pause please, there we go. Right, so to start off, this is actually, we just go over the whole animation actually. So this is a long time ago. This is definitely a good year and a few months ago. So it's not one of my absolutely early posts, but it is back in the day. And back then, Pokemon still wasn't huge on my account. It was kind of maybe 30% of what I did back then, maybe even 20%. It wasn't as much as it is now. And this is definitely back when I was doing stuff which was more 3D focused. Like I wanted to mess with 3D effects and trying to make things look as realistic as possible and have some fun with it at the same time. So this is actually, looking at what I do these days, is actually quite complex in comparison to what I do now, because now I've sort of streamlined the process to the point where I just would like to get more content out quicker rather than spending, you know, an entire week on just one animation. Sometimes I do. It depends what it is. It depends if I'm enjoying it or not, is the truth. But if we go through this, what's happening here is this imagery is actually real. Like that is actually on my phone. It's not an app or anything. It's an animation that I made, so it's actually a video, and I'm kind of I'm faking the fact that I press release. If I actually did press that, it would bring up the play button. So this is actually a video that's playing on my phone, which I pre-rendered and set up the release button as an actual animation. So I'm pretending to press the button there. So then we press the button, and then I bring it forward. The Pokeball opens and the screen goes white, and that's it for the phone side of things. So that's that all done. The lightning effect here is a mixture of 3D and After Effects. So Adobe After Effects is another program I use. And so what's happening here is I've got a lightning strike coming out. I can definitely see a flare effect there with the artifact. So I've tried to lighten up the stage here. So there's a lot of 2D After Effects editing going on in this. And then if we continue, so these thick strikes, these are all in 3D, and you can actually see some of the editing I've done there for masking out the edge there where it's, you know, it's obviously hit the floor or something on both sides, and I'm cropping it out because it's not ready for that yet. And then by that point, that's probably what it did look like as it hits where Jolteon's going to appear. And then when Jolteon appears, so the 3D of him is just appearing at this point, and I've, After Effects a big flare over the top to cover it up. And then, yeah, there he is. And the way that this is rendered is he'll be on a white background, possibly transparent, but I don't think I did many transparencies back then. So this was probably a white background. And I've masked off the character. So when I render it out, I actually have a layer that's black and white, and anything that's black it ignores, anything that's white it can make transparent. So in this case it would be Jolteon, so he's the thing that's been cropped out. Altogether it gives the illusion that he's actually there in the scene. There's a lot of, when I've rendered him, I've got a light source over here that you can't see because I'm just matching the lights in the scene. That's the best way to make things look realistic. So yeah, he's there. And then on top of all of this, I definitely do have a cropped layer because I'm putting my hand behind him, which is something I tell people not to do anymore. And yeah, I'm just making out that I'm stroking him. So I would have had the video at this point, and in 3D I would have animated Jolteon to react to the fact that my hand is out and I'm stroking him. So that's the process I've done there, which is the animation comes last because that's the thing that you animate as if it's reacting to people to make it look more realistic. So that's that, and that's that there. Sound is minimal. I mean, I've got a Pokeball opening sound, which you can get easily. But I mention that because my later ones have a lot more sound, as you'll see, compared to this, because back then it was more about just having fun with the actual, the rendering in the 3D and setting it up and everything. So yeah, that's the first one. We got this one here. So my friend Raphael from Germany. Oh, sound, get out of the way. Right. So if I just put it on repeat for a bit, because this one's all more about the animation. So he's got 2 pet cats. He likes to film a lot, and that worked perfectly for doing another Eevee evolution. You'll notice that I've chosen a couple of Eevee evolutions. It was going to be 3 of them, but I thought I'd break it up, so it's not all Eevees. But this was a fun one, and it looks fairly realistic, I'd say, as well. So, and it's quite basic. He doesn't do a lot of movement, but again, I've chosen this one to talk about because this one has a lot of reacting. So the model's acting aside, he knows what he's doing, but he's got a real cat to play with, so it does help, and that actually does sell the realism as well, so the two together. But it's more for the fact that Umbreon is constantly trying to follow the toy around and everything. And you'll notice the problem I had with this one, and if anyone's into editing effects, they'll know what a nightmare I probably had with this one. Because, as I always say these days, don't pass in front of the Pokemon or the model or anything like that because of the nightmare it creates. I don't mind doing it if the animation and the idea is really good, because it takes a little bit longer, but the end result will be really good. But let's slow this down. So one thing you won't be able to do on my social media things is, this is obviously the high res version, it's always compressed when you upload it, so you won't be able to see a lot of the intricacies of issues around the scene, but obviously I'll know what they are, so we can actually look at some of this stuff. So far it's fairly standard. He's 3D on the same sort of setup as previous with Jolteon. At this point, I would say I've probably rendered it out as a transparent background. It will still have the shadow layer, it will still be the same sort of setup, but now it's slightly more finessed in the way that I export it, because at this point in time I'm starting to streamline how I do them, so I'm a lot quicker at getting to the end process, because it does take up time, so it's always good to sort of improve that process. So you can see the toy, even at this point, when it moves, you see that motion blur going on there, which is very difficult to cut out of the scene, and that's exactly what we have to do. So see here, what's happening here is the toy is now in front of Umbreon, and I've gone frame by frame and literally cut out the actual toy. So each frame, I physically have gone in After Effects and cut out each frame of what's going on here. I can't actually go to each individual frame on this video player, but there's a bit coming up where if we slow it down, you'll really see it. So that motion blur, you know, would not have helped cutting it out because of that soft edge. So you can see it's, even looking at this now, I'd say it's fairly good. I'm not seeing a lot of issues with it, but I'm sure if we keep going, see that there's definitely something weird going on there. It doesn't look completely perfect. I can lighten this up. There we go. So you can see it's there. So that's frame by frame masking out of that. And the end result is actually really good. So it's definitely, you can definitely see it there, where the motion blur, there's a gap in the middle, and I just haven't be bothered to actually, you know, go that detailed with it because it is moving incredibly fast and it's motion blurred. So you wouldn't notice it at the speed it's going. If it was a wider object, you'd definitely see it. But the end result is that it actually works in its favor because it makes it suddenly look a bit more realistic than just some sort of AR filter where it actually passes in front. The difference between this and using an AR filter is usually it's not going to take the surrounding lighting in the scene or like what is known as the bump map, which is like the like subtle texturing on a surface. Rather than just having it the color of the object, there is actually like some information that you might see in games of what is known as the bump map or displacement map, which actually raises and lowers the actual geometry at the render phase. So it's not actually geometry, it's just looking like it is when it renders it. So all those things come together to make a scene look much more realistic than just having, you know, an AR thing. But some, you know, AR's getting better, and it's something to watch out for, definitely. So yeah, not one of my favourites. Nice and simple, but does the job very well. And like I say, we're moving on in time, and we're getting better at it. And now, more recently, I would say that. Oh, actually, another thing to point out with this one is, unlike the Jolteon one in the past, would be me doing all the filming and everything and acting and everything myself, which is, you know, difficult to do if anyone's ever tried to do this for me, to actually set up a camera and have it do what you want, but you want to be in the scene. Like, if I have control of the camera, then that's great, I can get full control of the scene that I want to set up. But then if I'm not the actor in it, then you have to direct someone, or it has to be static where it's not down to an actual bit of acting and it's just an object on the stage. So having people involved was something that I, you know, wanted to do a lot more than just doing it on my own, for two reasons. First one, you can probably guess, is by including other people in the content, then as a social media thing, that's great, because then you can spread awareness of your account around, because then that person's network helps you. So, you know, no, there's no lie to the fact that, you know, I will do projects because, you know, if someone's fairly big on social media, then obviously it's going to be more of an incentive than if it's just, you know, one of your friends. No offense to them, who might not have as much as a following, but that's not really why I would choose someone. These days I pretty much will choose any idea from anyone's sort of video, as long as the actual idea and setup is high quality and a good idea. That's what I tell everyone at the moment. Everyone who wants an actual video, I always say to them now that I will take on a video if you do a good job filming it and setting it up and acting and all that, and the idea is something unique and interesting. I don't want to just like at the end of the day, this is my spare time, and so I certainly do want to do more of this, you know, collabing with people. I absolutely want to do that, and I just do it for fun. I don't do it for like financial gain or anything like that, because most of the time on my 3D posts I don't get paid for any of it. It's just literally for fun. And so the one thing I do ask people is that they come up with an idea that's something that maybe I haven't done before, or they've got a cool location or a good or a fun idea. Like right now, this second, I'm planning on an entire month nothing but spooky Halloween themed stuff, because, you know, why not? And yeah, so anyway, this is the beginning of you know, collabing with other people, letting them just send me the videos. And like I say, this guy, Raphael, my friend, he is in Germany and I'm in the UK, so like there is no way that I was involved in actually filming or acting or anything like that on this. I can direct people over you know, Messenger and tell them what to do, but at the end of the day, it's down to whatever they send me. So there's a limitation, and you know, an extra bit of trickery going on there, where it's I'm sort of slave to whatever they send me. But at the end of the day, you know, I can work around it most of the time. And my usual rules, as some of you probably will have heard of, is what I stick to now. And if you look at the Jolty one, I break pretty much all those rules, which is under 20 seconds of content, no 90-degree turns of the filming of the camera, so none of this, because it wipes the stage clean of my tracking points. So if I'm tracking a scene and you wipe the stage and you turn literally 90 degrees, then you lose whatever information you were tracking, and then it just becomes a lot, it does not impossible, but it becomes more difficult to track. And then the last thing is, you, like this one here, you do not pass in front of the Pokemon, because it's not that I can't work with it, it's just that it then extends, you know, the time of exporting, because I have to go in like this one and correct it frame by frame, masking out a problem. I've got another, in fact the next Umbreon one I did with a guy called Galax, yeah, you'll see on that one there was a lot of masking on that one as well, but I liked the end result, so you know, I did work with it. So you know, it's not a deal breaker, but those are the rules to try and just streamline my process. So next one. So, as you can see here, Team Rocket. I'll just put this on repeat and turn the sound off. Before we do turn the sound off, you'll notice that there's a lot more sound going on in this one, but we'll get back to it in a minute. So, probably from the last two, like I say, one was probably about a year and a few months ago, and then the Umbreon one was probably something like 8 months ago, maybe. And this one was pretty much about 1 month ago, about the time that Team Rocket was rumored to be coming to Pokemon Go, which was, you know, what I wanted to try and tie things in with. Not all my posts these days are like this, but it is going towards more of what I want to try and do, which is get more complex, have, you know, an actual story going on sometimes. And yeah, I mean, it was also about time Pikachu turned up, but the reason Pikachu didn't turn up until now, which, you know, seems odd, is that his 3D model was just a nightmare to work with. Because funnily enough, you know how like you hear that from the original Pikachu design, he was really fat and chubby, and then he turned thinner and thinner. Apparently that was mostly down to the anime, and mostly down to the fact that in the anime he was difficult to animate because he was so fat he couldn't, like, you know, do certain poses or motions that you would want from your main character. You know, like how does a really fat person bend down to pick up something, you know, if their belly gets in the way. So he changed over time, and the 3D model kind of reflects that, but it still has those problems. So if you've ever opened up, if you ever actually do open up the actual 3D model of Pikachu, you'll see that his legs work a bit like the way that penguins' legs work in real life, in the fact that their bones, they do actually have knees. Like penguins have knees and like full leg structures, but you think of a penguin, they just waddle along. It's because their knees are actually on the inside of their body, and that's exactly what Pikachu has, in the way that it's so subtle, his motions and his legs, that they actually deform his body. And so his actual 3D model was a nightmare to work with. So it was only just before this, I think it's for the filter I made where he comes up on the back of your hat, that I actually re-rigged him so that I could get rid of those problems. So this is the first time I've actually used him, you know, my actual rigging to actually animate him, and he works fine. And as for Team Rocket there, the holes in the newspaper, that was just a laugh. And funny enough, those Team Rocket models, Jesse and James, are from, I think they're from Sword and Shield. So I was amazed that they were out. And funny enough, now the same website even has the Pokemon Go models, which I still prefer the Sword and Shield ones. They look more like, you know, classic Jesse and James. They look more human. So I want to do more with Jesse and James. I've got them on file now, and I want to do stuff with them. And so, anyway, I want to make sure how long my stream is going on for. I don't want to go on too long. So, yeah. With this one, as you can see, there's 3 models here. The more models are in the scene, the longer it takes to animate it. Like, it's like almost like exponential growth, because one animation with one character could take me 4 or 5 hours. So if you have one animation with 3 characters, could potentially take you 3 times as long. The actual rendering at the end doesn't change much in the way of things, so it's just down to that animation. And I do animate all this, you know, by hand. I make all the changes myself. It's not like I attach any sort of stock animation to them, which are out there, and you probably have definitely seen if you've used any Pokemon filters, because there's people out there who just attach those sort of dance animation things just to the model, and then it'll dance around, but it won't look right because, you know, Pikachu's not supposed to be twerking, you know? Like, that's just the thing. It's just, you know, he wouldn't do that. But anyway, so this is where we are with this one, and just thinking, would this one be a good one to look at? Probably, yeah. Let's do that. So there's that animation. Oh, and the other thing here is obviously sound. These days I try and get hold of the sounds, which can be a nightmare because you're a slave to whatever is available online. And obviously there's some background noise there, which is probably just from the video. The little jumping noise happens a lot in the anime, but you'll be surprised how difficult it is just to get hold of that without sort of any background noise or music on the top. So it's actually not from Pokemon, it's something that's similar from royalty-free sound website, which I've sped up to make it, and it's just almost perfect. It's almost exactly like Pikachu's little jump noise, and it adds real character just adding that noise in. It's much more like the cartoons. And then obviously his voice. Pikachu's everywhere, so his voice isn't hard to get, but there's a lot of other Pokemon that are so difficult just to find their voice line. Again, with no music in the background. There's people who mock film, or do what's the word? Impressions of them, but they're not the official, and you can tell, and they're not recorded, you know, very well either, because it'll just be probably usually just some kid who wants to do that and put it on YouTube, so they won't have the setup there, they won't be professional about it, so it's, you can tell basically. So here we are in the actual 3D scene. So this is before it's rendered, and this is what I see when I'm animating. So you can see I've got the background playing in the video. I can turn that off. There it is. And then, so this is what will actually render, which we put on top. And if we go in, if we detach the camera so we can see what's going on. So now let's have a look. So this is from other angles. So this is actually what's going on in the scene. I've turned off the floor, so there it is. There it is. That's where the shadow will be captured. And as you can see, so if we take Pikachu for example, actually let me just shrink my camera down slightly so you can see. Okay, so I'm going to shrink me down there. So if we have a look at Pikachu here in the hierarchy, these are all the controls that I've set up. So I can move him about. The original ones are here. So the green ones, these are all the actual bones, and then I put controls on top of it. And then so when I'm animating something, so let's have something simple like Pikachu's tail. I've got keyframes going on the tail of it moving about. You'll see the number down here of the rotation changing as his tail's moving about. So I've just animated that frame by frame, doing things there. So things like his hands and his feet, for instance. So we've got his feet. We change this so you can see it a bit better. This, and then if we go into his feet, if I move it now, you'll see how this works. So as you can see, I have to animate this frame by frame. Well, frame to frame, should I say, as he's running along. A lot of it will be covered up because you only really need to animate the things which you actually see from the camera's point of view, which is sort of like this angle. So there probably is things on this side that don't animate so well, like his arm there. See, his arm's not doing anything, but that's because you don't see it, so there's no point animating it. And then like Jesse and James, like we could go over to them and we could turn off the newspaper so we can see what they're up to. So Jesse and James, what do they do during this? They just sort of look. They don't do much. They're just sort of slowly animating around. And you can see like James's arms go a bit weird here, but again, he's covered up by newspaper, so you don't see any of this. And I've just tried to make them move slightly, So, and my setup for their textures down here. So we've got like Jesse's face. This is all set up in my GPU renderer so that it has reflectivity and bump maps and all that jazz. And yeah, when I render it, is it this one? Yeah, here we go. So this here, this is the mask layer. So this is me cropping out just the characters on black and white, as I mentioned earlier. So anything black won't appear and anything white will. And then that is layered over the actual render, which is this, which is a transparent background, but you can't tell because it's on a white page. But here we have, let me zoom, there it is. So let's zoom in a bit. So here we have the full res one, you can see what they're doing. And yeah, that's basically how it's set up. And then I color correct it and things like that in After Effects, or I might add some extra effects. But that's the general gist, that's how it all works. So yeah. And then you have the end result, which is rendered frame by frame and then put together as a video later on in the editing phase. So yeah, I hope that's helped clear up, helped you be inspired or anything, to maybe, I don't know, have a go at things yourself, get into animation. I'd say if you want to get into 3D animation, or at least character animation in general, Cinema 4D is probably not the best program for it, but Cinema 4D is a good all-round program that does 3D modeling, can do character animation, can do character painting, all that sort of stuff. It can also do dynamic effects. I can use it for game design. I use it for my Spark AR effects as well. But there are so many different programs out there that specialize in each one. Things like character design. ZBrush is good at that. Maya is really good at character animation and UV painting and mapping and things, as well as ZBrush. And Cinema 4D is sort of like the mid-range, good at sort of lots of different things, but it isn't great at certain things. So I use it just for in my work, and it just happens that you can do this stuff, but it's not simple and it's not quick, and it can take a while. And I say on average 4 or 5 hours to make an animation, but it's not like I've had a lot of experience in it, and like I say, I've streamlined the process now. It used to take a bit more, like 8 hours, and then on top of that, you got to remember there's also rendering times, and some things mess up, and then you got to comp it all together in After Effects. So yeah, it's a process like that. If you want to look at more of my animations, you can probably best place to find me is either on Instagram or TikTok. Just search for Dave Liquid Lizard, all one word. I do have some live streams similar to what we've been doing here, but they're a bit longer. They're about two hours long on average. It's just me going through, like, setting up one of these animations. I've done them every now and then, just for fun, just to have some company. So if you're interested, you can see that as well. That's on YouTube, youtube.com/ushark. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me on this stream. So I hope that's been enlightening for some of you, and if you enjoyed my stream, like I say, I will try and answer any questions below, probably after the stream. So I say stream video. So yeah, if you've got any other questions, I'll try and answer them, or just message me on Instagram. And if you do want to do a video like this, like if you do want to collab or anything, I do get a lot of requests. So I'll say that now, and that's the response I will give you as well. So if you do have an idea, or if you do want to get involved, then please have an idea of what you want to do, and if I approve it, then just have a look at what I do in these videos to try and just make my life easier. Is what it is, because I'm only going to take on the best stuff and the most interesting ideas, and I don't want it to be difficult for me at the end of the day. And yeah, so stay tuned for Halloween fun. I've got a whole bunch of different things planned for Halloween that I've actually already got some things made, including Pokemon animations, so a brand new Halloween themed Pokemon filter, and yeah, there's more coming. So enjoy the rest of Trainercon today. Thank you for stopping by, and yeah, I'll see you soon.